In the suffocating heat of an 1843 South Carolina morning, when the fog still clung to the ground like a living thing and the fields recoiled beneath it, a plantation known as Black Lantern rose into view with an eerie, breathless stillness. Its silence disturbed only by a rumor, one whispered for generations, that a slave named Moses Jackson once forced 9 plantation masters to reenact the very horrors they imposed on the enslaved, night after night, until the town itself became a shrine of dread, and it begins with the day all 9 masters disappeared for 12 hours, returning at dawn barefoot, trembling, and unable to speak. Moses Jackson was born in 1817, behind the crumbling smokehouse of Black Lantern, a child whose quietness unnerved even seasoned overseers, for he stared with a patience older than the land and listened with an intensity that felt almost predatory. By adolescence he was impossible to discipline, for he did not cry, flinch, plead, or lash out. He only watched, learning the shape of fear and the sound of a man's conscience cracking. He grew into a towering force, not of strength, but of psychological precision, observing every cruelty committed by the 9 masters, memorizing the rhythm of their steps, the hesitation in their voices when lying, the pressure points in their marriages, the secrets they shared only with their God. And slowly, invisibly, he reversed the hierarchy. Tools moved on their own. Animals refused commands. Overseers found themselves paralyzed by dread in Moses's presence. Then, one night, the 9 masters awoke to scratches on their doors spelled in identical lines, 9 marks for 9 sins. And from that moment they obeyed him without understanding why, compelled into nightly rituals that mirrored the forced breeding inflicted on slaves. Rituals Moses did not physically participate in but orchestrated through silence, posture, timing, and the unbreakable terror that if they disobeyed, their deepest secrets would surface. Soon the town of Stono felt the infection. Church bells rang at wrong hours. Orphanage children whispered the name Moses in their sleep. Priests found their sermons distorted by a sudden burning shame, and ordinary families began waking with dirt beneath their nails as if they had labored in fields during the night. Stono's spiritual calm deteriorated. The church choir sang discordantly. Hymnals rearranged themselves. Unlit candles melted down, and a sense of invisible authority pressed against the lungs of every man, woman, and child. The 9 masters, once pillars of wealth and cruelty, began performing unsettling rituals at night, kneeling in the fields, hands bound behind their own backs, blindfolded as if reenacting the bondage they once commanded. Some labored in the fields while the enslaved watched, horrified and confused. Overseers saw them wandering like sleepwalkers, whispering fragments of confession to the wind, each man repeating the name Moses, as if it were both a prayer and a curse. Then came the disappearances. A midwife found her door marked with 9 scratches before vanishing. A schoolteacher was discovered days later wandering in the woods, repeating a single phrase. He sees everything we hide. Even children vanish from their beds, only to return with no memory except the sensation of being watched by someone who never touched them, yet controlled their breath. By 1847, Stono had become a place where nothing felt anchored to reality. The plantation fields grew in twisted spirals. Birds refused to sing near Black Lantern, and the church began losing its congregation to fear. Meanwhile, Moses appeared less frequently, as if dissolving into darkness, showing himself only when needed to realign the terror guiding the 9 masters. But his influence broadened. People found ropes placed symbolically on altars, chains arranged in perfect circles in abandoned hallways, whips laid gently on pews, as though reenactments of slavery's brutality were being returned to the institutions that enabled them. Every building, schools, churches, town halls, began carrying the subtle architecture of guilt. Moses's power grew so profound that even memories shifted. Records of his birth faded from ledgers, slave lists rewrote themselves without his name, and townsfolk who swore they'd never met him began remembering encounters that felt staged by someone else. In 1851, a fire consumed the Black Lantern plantation house, burning from the inside out. The 9 masters stood outside, watching silently, their faces blank, their bodies trembling, as if Moses had given them permission to witness their own destruction. The only thing salvaged from the ashes was a small wooden frame containing 9 carved lines. After the fire, Moses Jackson was never seen again, yet Stono never recovered. Families still locked their doors with ritualistic precision. Children born decades later carried inherited dread, and visitors described a strange sensation of being sized up by an unseen presence. Even into the early 20th century, plantation ruins were avoided, and townsfolk would not say Moses's name after dusk. The story persisted as an unspoken truth, that some trauma becomes sentient, passed from generation to generation like an unwanted heirloom. That cruelty, once inverted, stains the air permanently, and that Moses Jackson, the feared slave who forced his 9 masters to reenact their own sins, did not die. He simply stepped into the shadow he had always controlled, leaving behind a legacy of terror woven into the soil, the walls, and the trembling voices of anyone who dares remember